let's bring you up to speed, shall we?
Since first glance, Battleborn has had an identity crisis. A new shooter from the quintessential gun company, Gearbox Software, has struggled against attempts at labeling Battleborn within conventional genres like MOBA, team-based shooter, or the recent surge of hero shooters. In over 100 hours of Battleborn, through countless matches, team compositions, and intense nights of heated debate, I've had similar difficulty nailing down Battleborn within reasonable bounds and restrictions. It has the diversity of a fighting game, map types like Battlefield and Call of Duty, even gear and raids reminiscent of the better parts of Borderlands. Battleborn exists as a melting pot, a veritable best of the best from dozens of influential games and themes, yet the interweaving glue and the sublime execution of each flavor creates something wholly unique and unlike anything else I've played in a long time. From the outset, the landscape is laid for the carnage and explosions to follow. Stars are disappearing, consumed by the Virelsi, and you need to huddle around the last star Solus and defend the only thing left in the universe. The Battleborn come together from 5 different factions, the Degenerate, the Eldred, the Rogues, the LLC, and the Peacekeepers, to form a fighting squad of the best to hold back the power-hungry Rendane and his evil warriors. It's a little 80s Saturday morning cartoon, but Gearbox leans heavily into the aesthetic, delivering a gorgeous animated 2D intro and opening credits for each episode of the story campaign. If you've played Borderlands before, you might feel a strange sense of deja vu here. The same sense of humor and overall brightness contrast the veritable plight of the universe, and the heroes aren't immune to cracking a few macabre jokes during each mission.
You do realize this technically qualifies as terrorism, don't you? Teamwork.
The roster of the Battleborn is worth the price of admission alone, as this is exactly the kind of diverse and interesting cast of characters you would want from a game so focused on the interplay of heroes. Oscar Mike and Thorn run around picking people off from the distance, while hulking Atticus and mech-riding Toby serve to flesh out the roster in more interesting ways. It's rare for any hero in Battleborn to feel too much like another, and each serves as a vitally different role on the battlefield. Shooter is still the closest analogy for the perspective of Battleborn, but it's how these heroes operate within those confines that make them so compelling. The first and most notable mention is that melee feels good, in a way I've yet to see other shooters manage. Galilea is a titanic warrior, sprinting through waves of enemies with her sword and board, and playing her like a pissed off Link is as natural as shooting any other assault rifle in the game. Other characters might resort to different means, like a charge cannon or a cavalcade of fencing swords, but they all handle naturally and feel unique. This extends to abilities as well. Each Battleborn can have multiple styles of basic attacks, an inherent passive, basic skills, and an ultimate skill. Pools are wide, and each Battleborn brings a holistically different kit to their team. As heroes level up, they also gain helix levels, which let them augment their skills and statistics in different ways. Even within playing a single character, you can find yourself laying out ideal helix builds, augmenting them with gear loadouts, and constructing new ideas and synergies just for a single hero. There's significant depth to be found here in organizing team compositions and mastering characters. The subtle nuance within the roster only works if each character feels unique, and in Battleborn, each character feels like their own persona, wholly separate and yet melding together as a team perfectly. The way that the Battleborn come together mirrors the way that the stories play out. Each story mission is like an episode of a television show, taking place tangential to the overall narrative arc, but operating within its own episodic boundaries. In one episode, you seek to disrupt and capture a rogue artificial intelligence to bring it on to help the Battleborn. In another, you guide fragments of a race's historical archives to safety off-planet as the planet crumbles and burns around you. These moments, where planets crumble and massive Virelsi gun hulks rise out of voids to impede your progress, show the graphical power and effective style of Battleborn in full form. The aesthetic of Battleborn is colorful and varied, from the massive sheen of the Degenerate halls to the earthy tones of the Eldred homeworld. Animations are well crafted, with 2D explosions and effects littering the 3D battlefield to create a comic book style look to fights. It can become a sensory overload at times as characters become difficult to discern amongst the fray, and 10 different players are all unleashing moves and abilities in a small area. In many episodes though, I found myself stopping to admire the surprisingly detailed skybox, or the details on a character's armor or taunt animation, as those little bits of visual goodness add to build the character of the universe. Each story episode can stand alone, and each provides anywhere from 30 to 40 or more minutes of engaging gameplay, along with a few pieces of treasure to keep you coming back for more. They're highly repeatable as the difficulty can scale with the number of players you roll with or increasing difficulty levels. Higher difficulty means better gear drops for your Battleborn, but pressing through these missions isn't just a means to an end. I was surprised by how likely I was to just come back and run the missions over and over with different compositions and difficulties. Though it can sometimes feel like a grind when you're just going for a legendary, it's still satisfying to work out the most efficient and effective means to do so.
Reboot! Wait! Please don't reboot! Please don't reboot! You can't tell me what to do. Initializing system reboot.
Gear is a thread running through all of these modes and is a complicated but very important part of Battleborn. The out-of-mission meta progression of the game is broken up into several different level ranks and meters. You have your individual account rank, your character rank for each character, and you also have gear that you unlock that you take into battle. Gear loadouts are the same out-of-game items that you loot during the story missions and multiplayer gameplay. Shards, a byproduct of the Vrelsi's Universal Star Decimation campaign, litter the battlefield in every mode. You spend these shards to either buy turrets or purchase more of your gear loadout. Once activated, your gear can give you different boosts. One might improve your damage reduction or attack speed, or a cheaper one might do the same for less while also reducing your health or regeneration. As you earn blue coins for completing multiplayer matches or story missions, you can spend them on booster packs and unlock more powerful gear, special skins and taunts, or more bank pages and loadout pages for your gear. Gear runs the standard gamut of white commons up to greens, blues, and purples, with orange signifying legendary gear. These legendary pieces of gear can offer a major buff, like gaining lifesteal on your abilities, or even character-specific buffs, like lowering Benedict's cooldowns for every rocket hit while airborne. All of this, the nuanced roster, the constant progression, and the gear loadouts funnel into multiplayer. Split into 3 modes, multiplayer in Battleborn is a complex beast. Incursion is the closest analog to a MOBA game type, with waves of mindless robotic minions crashing against each other on a single lane, as each team vies for ground, builds turrets and support structures, and pushes to destroy each other's massive walking turrets called sentries. Meltdown is a little more varied, as 2 waves of minions run down each lane to be fed to a mechanical deity called Minrek, with the victor being the team that can most satisfy the boisterous robot god. Capture is the third and most recognizable as a domination mode where teams contest control of 3 designated areas to earn points. Incursion is where the most MOBA-esque game theory surfaces, as team composition and organized play become crucial to manipulate the tug-of-war to your favor. It's organized chaos, and depending on the map it can feel like a careful dance back and forth or a violent mosh pit. Knowledge is critical though, as knowing when to buy turrets, gear, and when to take out nearby mercenary camps is key to gaining the edge on your opponents. Meltdown is a little more open to interpretation, and so it tended to be the favorite among most early players. Lanes are shorter, and the 2-lane division lets players dodge tough matchups and be effective in spite of team comp issues. Capture rounds it out, being a basic mode, but still fun to play if you need a quick match in the Battleborn universe. Still, multiplayer in Battleborn is incredibly compelling due to both the clever interplay of heroes and the constantly varying scenarios you can face in identical matches. Many other MOBAs try for the same quality of no 2 games ever feel the same, but it maps perfectly to Battleborn's hectic battles. Where it falters is in the mundane moments, where matches begin to grow stale and the same compositions roll out over and over. Balance patches will be an obvious solution to this, but Battleborn will likely be a game that has swings of balance similar to other hero-centric titles. In some cases, this can lead to issues of certain characters just being overpowered, steamrolling enemy teams with ease, or others feeling inferior to all of their Battleborn. Balance will be a fluid thing in Battleborn, and that might already be an issue for some. Performance can also be an issue, as different versions have varying performance on individual maps. Presentation strikes an odd balance as well. While stunning you with an opening intro backed by Deltron and a cinematic prologue mission, launch build of Battleborn has been prone to crashes and odd quirks. There's no option to select specific story missions to publicly queue up for either, an issue that might dissuade lone wolves from queuing up if they're looking to finish the campaign. You also really have to buy into what Battleborn is offering, and that's not the easiest sell. This is by all means a complex game with many different game types, characters, pieces of gear, and more. For the competitively inclined, or groups who enjoy binging cooperative games together, it could provide hundreds of hours of entertainment, but there is a level of buy-in that can't be understated, no matter how easy the entry curve may be. That complexity, nuance, and intricacy is what has had me obsessed with this game for weeks. I've spent nights theory crafting team compositions and helix builds. Massive victories over 5-man pre-made stacks were huge achievements, and each new piece of legendary gear or lore achievement met was like Christmas Day. Although I started to feel the cooling out process now, that's after 100 hours and change. Battleborn is a new venture, an amalgamation of different influences in games that are as much reflective of the current industry landscape as they are of the developers themselves. But from that diversity emerges something truly special, a surprise I never knew I was waiting for, and one I'm likely to stay engaged with for a long time.
Oh no! More generate weaklings to slaughter!
We give Battleborn a 90 out of 100.